We're all still talking about it, aren't we? Elon Musk clinching a deal to buy Twitter Incorporated for $44 billion cash Monday in a transaction that will shift control of social media platform populated by millions of users and social and global leaders to the world's richest person. It is a seminal moment for the 16-year-old company, which emerged as one of the world's most influential public squares and now faces a string of challenges. Musk has criticized Twitter's moderation, calling himself a free speech absolutist, saying that Twitter's algorithm for prioritizing tweets should be public, and has criticized giving too much power on the service to corporations that advertise. Political activists expect that a Musk regime will mean less moderation and reinstatement of banned individuals. Conservatives cheer the prospect of fewer controls, while some human rights activists voice fears of a rise in hate speech. Well, Musk himself has ascribed user-friendly tweaks to the service, such as an edit button and defeating spam bots that send overwhelming amounts of unwanted tweets. His move continues a tradition of billionaires buying control of influential media platforms, including Jeff Bezos' 2013, his acquisition of The Washington Post. Well, Twitter said Musk secured $25.5 billion of debt and margin loan financing and is providing a $21 billion equity commitment. Well, joining us to make sense of all of this and what indeed is Twitter's future under Elon Musk, Gbenga Sheson is a digital expert, CEO, Paradigm Initiative. He joins us now virtually. Thanks, Gbenga, for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So we're saying that after the news of that deal, human rights groups raising concerns about hate speech on Twitter and the power it could give Mr. Musk. Are you concerned with this, with what we're hearing? I mean, I saw an Amnesty International thread saying we're concerned that, you know, the steps that Twitter might take to erode enforcement of policies and mechanisms designed to protect users.
I mean, everyone is concerned. I think it's very clear that when rich people acquire power and use that power to protect their wealth, then their main priority is not anything but themselves and their own interests. And that is a major challenge, not just even for human rights, but also even for human decency, because it then means that, whoever owns this now, when it was a platform owned by various stakeholders, now that was different. It was a different conversation. You could have various stakeholders who were leaning in different directions. But now when you have a platform that has become literally the digital public square, then it is owned by one individual, then it means that that individual, purchased it for reasons best known to him. Of course, none of us will know right now exactly what Elon Musk is going to do with Twitter, but a few things are clear. So number one is being very clear, about how is, a respecter of free speech and things like that, even though many people are worried that his take on being a respecter of free speech is not exactly in terms of, protecting everyone, but it's just in terms of any powerful person who, of course, everybody is thinking, is Donald Trump coming back? My wife and I were talking about that, and I said, well, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump comes back to Twitter. So yes, I am concerned because, first of all, there is the challenge that even if Twitter was not owned by one individual, there's a challenge that we're now in a kind of space, in a digital space, where we've created for ourselves a big problem that many of us did not anticipate. And that problem is that we assumed that if everyone had a chance to speak, they would say what is decent, what is fair, and what respects the right of others. That's not exactly the case we have right now. But also, we have a challenge because there are people who now depend on this platform for the work that they do that are very sensitive. There are countries where there are activists, my colleagues in other countries, who do sensitive work, who do work that allows them to criticize government, to speak up on public issues, but are able to do this when required anonymously. Now, that may not exactly be something that the new Twitter under Mr. Musk will enjoy. And that will be a challenge, of course, for people who work in human rights. But apart from that, I mean, it will be interesting to see what direction Mr. Musk goes. But clearly, what will dictate for him what to do is not going to be human dignity, is not going to be what is right. It is definitely going to be something that would bring, of course, returns for him. And that's where the challenge is. When millions, tens of millions of people who have created this kind of space where they speak freely are now subjected to the whims and caprices of one man, then that is a major challenge.
But Gbenga, do you think that accounts suspended by the company will be allowed to return, do you think?
We don't know. I mean, we don't know that for a fact because I know that as much as everyone expects that, Elon Musk is going to bring Donald Trump back to Twitter, one of the considerations he's also going to have is what is going to be the impact of that on the platform. Is that going to make users migrate? By the way, there are people who are already having conversations about migrating to open source platforms because don't forget, before this acquisition, there was already a debate about the future of Twitter being a platform that supports openness, where, and I guess an easy way to explain this is that when the internet started, the internet was supposed to be an open platform, in an open space where everyone could contribute. But as things continued, people like Facebook, Twitter, and others began to build somewhat, what you could look like, what looks like gardens, so they have this garden, these walled gardens of themselves. There's a Twitter space where when you are there, you're not communicating with anyone else. When you're on Facebook, you're on Facebook, you're not communicating with anyone else. So you're not really on the entire internet, you're just in this walled garden. And so there had been this debate about making sure that we move to the original design of the internet, which is about, protocols, not platforms that have now been created as walled gardens. Now, what I suspect is that conversation is going to suffer a major setback because we were thinking of things becoming more open, but now things are definitely going to become more proprietary. And don't forget, this is richest man in the world who's conquered space and who definitely considers acquisition of Twitter as a win for himself. And well, while he will try to do what is best for his business, there's also the unfortunate side of the ownership ego that is going to come in here. But we can never tell, what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to bring Donald Trump and others who have been suspended back. But my suspicion is that one of the things that he's going to push for is that everyone has a right to say whatever they want to say. And so anyone who has been suspended should be reviewed. And if they have not been found to say anything that is illegal, should be brought back. And that is. But
the truth, Gbenga, is that we're already seeing tweets and people are saying that former President Donald Trump should be brought back. But let's go over to the EU, and they're in the midst of finalizing the Digital Services Act to create a global gold standard platform regulation. Some have said that this is likely to affect the practical exercise of free speech on social media platforms. What's your take? And this is also wondering what Nigeria can learn from the EU in this regard.
The second part of your question is I think it's the reason why I'm here. Because first of all, I'm Nigerian, and it's been interesting seeing Nigeria's reaction to the global debate. So there's a global debate happening in terms of social media. Unfortunately, Nigeria's reaction has been interesting in two ways. Number one, the Nigerian government wants to tax what it does not create an atmosphere for. So the Nigerian government wants to tax Twitter, wants to tax Facebook and all others. But the question is, are we creating the environment for the Twitters of Nigeria? And I'm not saying copying Twitter now, but the innovative ideas in Nigeria, are they able to to thrive in Nigeria? Unfortunately, there's that one part of what Nigeria can learn. Before you can start taxing things and making it become a global platform, you have to create the atmosphere for it. So Nigeria has no business chasing a Twitter to shut it down. What we should be doing is creating the atmosphere for alternatives and for many other innovative ideas to thrive on our own soil. The second thing, where we have a challenge is that the process in the EU, the process in many other countries has had to go through parliament. In Nigeria, the government has tried to go through parliament, but when they brought, the two unpopular bills, the one on hate speech and the one on, social media, on internet falsehood, unfortunately, those bills were full of contradictions. They were clearly attempts at gagging people, which is unfortunately quite consistent with, what has been happening with this administration and even some before it. But the interesting thing is that other countries, including the EU, the DSA, the Digital Services Act in the EU, is going through a legislative process. What Nigeria can learn is that if we really want to find a solution to the twin problems of hate speech and fake news, then we should do it the right way. And the right way to do it is to take this through parliament. If you take it to parliament and the people that you are saying you're trying to protect say they don't want the bill, like they did with the hate speech bill, like we did with the hate speech bill and the social media bill, then it means you go back to the drawing board, or you listen to the service providers, you listen to the users, and then you produce a bill that is based on what solves the problem, not what helps a governor arrest anyone because they say something about his wife's makeup or something like that. So, two things we can learn. Number one, instead of chasing shadows, instead of trying to clamp down on digital services, Nigeria, let's create an atmosphere where innovation can thrive. Number one. And number two, if we want to do what is called social media regulation and all of the debate happening around the world, we have to do it right. And doing it right means doing it through the parliament, not a minister announcing on June 4, we have banned a platform. That's not what others are doing. And the reason why they're not doing it that way is because it's not sustainable.
Yes, so talking about that ban, I know the federal government said, that Twitter had agreed to several demands, but a lot of people are wondering if things would change, because we haven't seen a lot happen, such as, getting an office in Nigeria, for example, amongst other lists. Do you think that would change also under, the new owner, Elon Musk?
So if there was an agreement, we can talk about something changed. There was no agreement. I am saying this live on Channels TV. The Nigerian government lied. There is no written agreement with Twitter. The minister lied. So, unfortunately, what didn't exist cannot change.
Well, we don't really know for certain. We only know what the federal government has said with this regards. But it's interesting that you are saying this, countering the federal government's statements and their efforts to indeed Twitter. But that's the much we can take at this time. We'd like to thank you, Gbenga Sheson. Always a pleasure. As the CEO of Paradigm Initiative, also a digital expert. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.